This past week, the card selling conversation around me was dominated by live selling. A friend of the program had found a format and whatnot that had some success, and almost immediately the Discord conversation exploded. Suddenly, live selling felt like the thing everyone needed to figure out. And I get it. I'm not against live selling at all. In fact, I feel the pull as well. I've studied it. I've set up practice shows. I've earmarked inventory. At some point, I fully expect to be live selling as well and make it a regular arm of my business. But this week, some of the conversation sounded a little less like strategy and a little more like addiction. Quick sales, above market wins, the rush of the room, one show becoming two, and two becoming three. So today, we're going to slow it down and ask the question that matters. Live selling may work, but does it actually fit your business? Welcome to my so-called card life, an inside look at the life of a low-end card reseller, brought to you by JC3 Cards and Collectibles, a premier reseller of trading cards available today on eBay, Collects, and whatnot. Whether you're looking to fill out that new set or just rekindle memories with one of your favorite players from your favorite teams, let JC3 Cards and Collectibles help you find that card you're looking for and provide fast, secure delivery straight to your door. Welcome to my so-called card life, the podcast where we talk about what actually happens when you try to run a real card business, the decisions, adjustments, and lessons that don't show up in highlight reels. Welcome back, everyone, and thanks for joining us again. Today's episode is all about live selling. More specifically, it's about the pull of live selling, the excitement around whatnot, the business discipline required to decide whether live selling fits your current model. And I want to say this very clearly right away. This is not an anti-live selling episode. I'm not here to say whatnot is bad or eBay Live. I'm not here to say live selling is bad at all. And I'm not here to say everyone should stay on eBay forever and ignore every other channel. That's not my position at all. My position is actually more complicated and nuanced than that. I think live selling can absolutely be a valuable arm of a trading card business. I think it can help move inventory, build community, and it definitely can create energy. I think it can be a great outlet for certain sellers with the right inventory, the right personality, the right schedule, the right space, and most importantly, the right systems. But therein lies a key phrase: the right fit. Because a good opportunity can still be wrong for your current business. And I think that's where a lot of sellers can get themselves into trouble. Not because live selling is bad, but because fear of missing out is not a business strategy. This past week, live selling seemed to take over the conversation. A friend of the show found a format on Whatnot that produced some success. There were quick sales, there was energy, there was excitement. And once that happened, our Discord conversation around live selling lit up. People started talking about show formats, shipping, inventory, sourcing, audience differences, and how easy or addictive the process felt. And honestly, it was fascinating. There were some really thoughtful points made. One seller talked about how every seller has a different audience. Then they went further and said each seller can have a different audience in different shows, and even different audiences within the same show. And that's a really interesting observation because live selling is not just listing a card and waiting for a buyer. It's a room, it's timing, it's personality, it's momentum, and buyer mix, it's chat energy, and it's entertainment, and there is certainly urgency. All of that makes it fascinating. But from an operator standpoint, it also makes it a little bit maddening. Most business systems are trying to create predictability. You want to know what sells, at what price, how often, to what buyer, with what cost, with what margin, and with what repeatable process. Live selling is closer to chaos theory, where tiny changes can completely alter the result. A different time slot, a different room, different buyer, a different category, or a different mood, a different host, or a different run order, or a different level of energy. A card that dies in one show might run in another. A buyer who drives a room for 20 minutes might disappear. A sports room might suddenly become a wrestling room. A dollar box crowd might turn into a Packers crowd. Or one aggressive bidder can make the entire night feel stronger than it actually was. That's real. But it's also hard to measure. And that is the first big theme of this episode. Live selling can create real demand, but it can also create unstable demand. And that doesn't make it bad, but it means you have to evaluate it carefully. Before I go any further, I want to be fair about my own position. I feel the pull of live selling too. And I understand why sellers are excited by it. I also understand why people want to try it. And I get why a seller who's been sitting on boxes of inventory looks at eBay Live or whatnot and thinks, maybe this is the way to finally move some of this. I've put some time into learning the platforms, and I've even set up practice shows. I've thought about studio space, I've earmarked inventory, and I thought through what a JC3 live selling format might look like. And at some point, I am basically 100% sure that live selling will become an arm of my business. So the reason I've not jumped in yet is not because I think live selling is bad. It's simply because right now it doesn't fit my business resources. And the biggest constraint is time. Don't believe I can consistently meet a live show schedule with my other commitments. And to me, consistency matters. If I'm going to build an audience, I don't want the experience to be random, rushed, or constantly squeezed between everything else. The second constraint is space. I don't currently have a completely private area where I can go live without family passing through. Interruptions, background noise, or the normal reality of life happens around me, and I can't stop that. Now, that might sound minor, but it's not minor. A live show already requires focus, and it requires energy. It requires a form of presentation, and it requires the ability to stay engaged with the room. If the environment adds stress, that stress becomes part of the business model. So for me right now, live selling creates pressure around time, space, consistency, and performance. And that makes it a poor fit at this moment. Not forever, but right now, today. And that's an important distinction. Not now doesn't mean not ever. It means the business has not yet earned the right to add that channel. That may sound overly formal, but I do think it matters. Every new channel creates cost. It creates complexity, and it creates expectations. It creates more places to manage inventory, more workflows to monitor, more customer experiences to protect, and more ways for your time to get split. So the question's not, can I go live? Of course I can go live. Anyone can hit the button. The question is, can I go live in a way that strengthens the business instead of stressing the business? And right now, for me, the answer is no. That's not fear, that's business discipline. One of the things that stood out in the Discord conversation was that sellers were openly calling live selling addictive. Not critics, not people standing outside the room saying, this looks bad. People actually doing the thing. One seller basically said live selling once a week is like an alcoholic trying to have one beer. He started at once a week, then went to 3 times a week, and said he may go even more. And he said it's definitely addicting. Another seller said anytime he has a free hour, he really wants to jump on and do a pop-up show. But he has to fight that urge because he has sorting and organizing to do that's worth more than the hour of sales. That exchange really stuck with me because that's the issue. Not that live selling exists, not that people enjoy it, and not that it works. The issue is that sellers are identifying the pull in real time. And when sellers tell you a format is addictive, believe them. Live selling has one of the strongest feedback loops in card selling. On eBay, you list in silence. You wait. Maybe something sells in 3 hours. Maybe it sells in 3 days. Heck, maybe it sells in 3 months, or maybe it never sells. On Whatnot, live selling gives you feedback that is immediate. People enter the room, they comment, they bid, and people react. The chat moves along, items sell. Sometimes items sell above what you expected, and sometimes two buyers compete and push a card beyond what you thought was even reasonable. And that feels really good as a seller. Of course it does. Problem's not that it feels good. Problem is when the feeling starts to make the decision. One show becomes two, two shows become three, and three becomes, maybe I should just pop on for an hour. Then the seller starts building their day around the next chance to go live. And that might be fine if the numbers support it. But it's dangerous if the numbers are unclear and the main driver is just the rush itself. There's a difference between a channel being useful and a channel being compulsive. There's a difference between testing a platform and chasing a room. And there's a difference between a planned show and a reflex. And that's where sellers need some guardrails. Because the live selling format is not just selling cards. It's selling cards inside a reward loop. Quick feedback, social energy, visible action, occasional big wins. That combination can distort judgment. This is where I keep coming back to one of my own experiences. There was a time years ago where I got addicted to penny slot machines. And I thought I really had them figured out. I had a few big wins, I had a few 400x type wins, and those wins were real. They happened. I saw the machine pay out, I felt the rush, and once that happened, my brain started building a story around it. Maybe I'd found something. Maybe I knew just when to sit down and when to leave. Maybe I knew which machines were better, or maybe there was a pattern I figured out. And that's the dangerous part. The big wins were real, but they weren't proof that I had an edge. They were simply variance, and over time, the house wins. Over time, the losses outweighed the wins. And I think there is a similar behavioral pattern that can show up in live selling. Now, I'm not saying live selling is legally or structurally the same as gambling. That's not the point here. The comparison is behavioral. A few cards sell above market, a room gets hot, buyers start competing, and a seller feels the energy. And a seller starts to think, maybe I found the format, and maybe I cracked the code. Suddenly they source more aggressively, they schedule more shows, they pull more inventory, and they spend more time prepping and start chasing the next room. The problem with a big win is not that it happened. The problem is that your brain starts treating it like proof. And that's what concerns me sometimes. A $2 card selling for $8 in a live room is memorable. It feels better than 10 quiet $4.99 eBay sales that just happen in the background. But that doesn't automatically make the live selling model better. It just makes the feedback louder. And the loudest feedback loop is not always the most profitable one. This may be the most important operational point in the episode. Live selling creates an unusually seductive trade off. Do I do the boring thing that strengthens the business? Or do I do the exciting thing that creates immediate sales? That matters because sellers are not always choosing between live selling and doing nothing. Sometimes they're choosing between live selling and sorting, or live selling and organizing, or listing, or pricing, or improving inventory systems, or reconciling listings across platforms. Live selling, or building curated lots, or cleaning stale inventory, or fixing the shipping process that made them hate picking and packing in the first place. These types of activities don't produce the same rush. Sorting does not clap for you. Organizing doesn't send fire emojis. Building better systems doesn't give you a hot room. But those quiet hours may be the hours that actually make the business sustainable. That's why the Discord comment about fighting the urge to go live for an hour was so important. The seller recognized that the sorting and organizing work was worth more than the hour of sales. And that's the right way to think. Because the question is not only, can I make sales in this hour? The question is, what's the best use of this hour? And sometimes the best use of the hour is not the thing that produces immediate revenue. Sometimes it's the thing that reduces future frictions or prevents inventory chaos. Sometimes it's the thing that makes tomorrow's listing session easier or keeps the whole operation from becoming reactive. The problem is not that 1 hour of live selling produces sales. Problem is that it can steal the hour your business actually needed. That is the operator lens. Not, did I sell something, but was that the highest value use of the time? One of the big points that people make in favor of live selling is that the shipping feels easier. And I get that. If you're selling through eBay's Buy It Now platform and you have a lot of individual low-end card orders, the picking and shipping process can become repetitive, can sometimes become frustrating, and it can feel like you're spending hours pulling small orders. Live selling can make that feel different. You run a show, you sell a stack, orders consolidate. You may be dealing with fewer individual picking events, and the shipping flow may feel cleaner. Now, that can be real, but it's incomplete math because the time does not disappear, it moves. Live selling still requires sourcing and curating and deciding what goes into the show. It requires sorting and staging, scheduling, promotion. It requires setup and being live and quote unquote on. It requires post show cleanup and reconciling inventory. And it requires replenishing the next show. And if you're pulling inventory from other platforms, it makes making sure you don't sell the same card twice. So, yes, shipping may be easier. But what did the business give up to make shipping easier? Did you move that labor into show prep or more sourcing? Did you move the labor into the performance aspect of the show or managing the stress that it put on you? Or did you move that labor into a schedule you can't maintain? That's why I don't like blanket statements like live selling is easier. Easier than what? Or easier for whom? What scale? And after how much prep? Easier with what kind of inventory? And what type of family schedule are you working around? Easier with what space and what system? Because live selling doesn't eliminate work. It changes the shape of the work. And for some sellers, that new shape may in fact be better. But for others, it could actually be worse. But you can't know unless you count the whole process. Let's go back to that earlier Discord point about audiences. One seller said the most fascinating thing about live selling is that every seller has a different audience. And they went further and said each seller has a different audience in different shows and even different audiences within the same show. That's one of the sharpest observations from the whole conversation. And my response was basically, you say fascinating, I say maddening. Most business models and economic systems are trying to work toward predictability. But live selling is like chaos theory. Now, to be fair, that chaos is part of what makes it exciting. A good live seller has real skill. They can read the room, adjust the pace, pivot categories, keep energy up, and know when to run better cards and know when to move bulk. And they can know when to stop forcing something that's not working. That's a real skill, and I don't want to minimize that. But from a business evaluation standpoint, chaos makes things difficult. If 5 variables changed and sales improved, you did not necessarily find the answer. You found a result. Maybe the time slot was better, but maybe the inventory was better. Maybe your energy was better. Maybe the buyers were different, and maybe one person drove the entire show. Or maybe the category worked. Maybe the room just happened to be hot. And that's why live selling can be so addictive. It feels like there's a pattern just out of reach. Maybe if I go live at a different time. Maybe if I run different inventory. Maybe if I start everything at $1. Maybe if the theme of the show is different. Maybe if I promote harder. Or maybe if I go live more often. Some of those may be legitimate business tests, but some of it may just be chasing variance. And the most addictive systems are not purely random. They're just predictable enough to make you think the next adjustment will unlock them. And that's the danger. Live selling can teach you a lot about demand, but it can also tempt you into endless tweaking without clear measurement. One thing I said in the Discord is probably the simplest version of my whole position. Don't live sell just because everyone else is doing it. Do it because it's the right model for your business goals, systems, and resources. Fear of missing out is usually not a successful business strategy. That matters because live selling has a great deal of social momentum right now. One seller has a good show. Another seller starts talking about doing more. Someone says the shipping is easier, and someone talks about how they moved a bunch of cards. Someone else says they're pulling listings from eBay for whatnot. And suddenly, it feels like the whole room is moving in one direction. That doesn't mean your business should also move in that direction. Your inventory may be different, your schedule may be different, your personality may be different. Different goals, different systems, a different space to work in. Your opportunity cost may be different. For one seller, an hour live may be the best use of time. But for another seller, that same hour may be better spent sorting backstock, listing better singles, building curated lots, fixing stale inventory, or improving shipping systems. That's why everybody else is doing it is such a weak reason. A business channel should also solve a business problem. It should not just soothe the fear that you're missing out. Fear of missing out makes someone else's success story feel like your emergency. But their numbers are not your numbers. Their room is not your room. And their inventory is not your inventory. And their time is not your time. Their household is not your household. And their stress is not your stress. Their business model is not automatically your business model. That doesn't mean you ignore what others are doing. You should pay attention. You should learn. You should study. You should test when appropriate. But you shouldn't blindly follow. Community excitement is not the same as business alignment. Another thing that came up in the conversation was the idea of eventually pulling eBay listings down for whatnot. That's a bigger decision than it may sound like, because if you remove inventory from eBay to run it on whatnot, you're not just changing platforms, you're changing the demand model. eBay is search-based demand. A buyer searches for a card, they find your listing, maybe they buy it today, maybe they watch it, maybe they come back later, maybe it sells because the player gets hot, maybe it sells because someone is building a set. Maybe it sells because your title and price and shipping made sense at the right moment. What not live selling is event-based demand. The buyer has to be in the room at that time, in that mood, ready to bid or buy while the card is being run. That can be powerful, but it is different. So before pulling eBay listings down, I would want to ask, is this inventory stale? Is it getting views or watchers? Is it priced correctly? Is it better suited to a live room? Will live selling net more after labor? Does this weaken the depth of my eBay store? Am I moving this inventory because the math says live selling is better, or because I'm excited about the room? That last question matters, because inventory you already own is not free inventory. It's trapped capital waiting for the best exit. And the best exit may in fact be live selling, but it may also be eBay. Maybe a curated lot, could be a coupon event, may even be a local buy, or it may be bulk liquidation. The answer depends on the card, the cost, the time, the buyer, and the strategy. So I'd be careful about treating live selling as the automatic answer for backstock. It can be the answer, but it's not always the answer. So if I were building a practical framework for this, I would call it the live selling fit test. Before adding live selling as a serious arm of the business, I'd want to look at 9 different areas. First is a goal fit. What's the problem live selling is trying to solve? Is it cash flow, stale inventory, community building, liquidation? Is it a way to sell cards that are not worth photographing and listing one by one? Or is it entertainment and buyer development? If you can't explain what problem live selling solves for in your business, you may just be chasing the room. A business channel should solve a business problem. Number 2 is inventory fit. Do you have inventory suited for a live audience? Because not all inventory belongs in a live room. Some cards are better as search-based eBay listings, and some are better in curated lots, while some are better as bulk. But some may be perfect for live selling because they're visual, fun, low cost, easy to run, or connected to a strong collector audience. But inventory fit matters. Having boxes of cards is not the same as having live selling inventory. Number 3 is a time fit. Can you consistently schedule and run shows? So that's one of my current constraints. I could probably go live randomly, but random is not the same as building a channel. If I can't meet a consistent schedule without creating stress, then live selling is not a clean fit right now. Number 4 would be a space fit. You have a reliable, low-stress place to go live? Can you control noise and interruptions? Can you keep the setup ready? Can you create a space where you can focus? For me, that's another constraint. I don't currently have a completely private area where family life will not pass through the show. And that matters. Number 5 is a personality fit. Can you be on without draining yourself or forcing it? Live selling is performance labor. Some are chill, some are over the top energy. but it's all performance. Some people enjoy that, and some people are good at that. There are people that can do it for hours, but there's others that may be able to do it, but find it exhausting. And that doesn't mean they can't live sell. It means the energy cost needs to be part of the model. Number 6 would be a system fit. Can you prep, track, ship, reconcile, and replenish without creating more chaos? If you're selling on eBay, collects, whatnot, locally, and possibly other channels, inventory control matters. The more channels you add, the more important your systems become. Live selling should not create a mess for your business that it has to clean up later. Number 7 would be a financial fit. Does the net profit justify the total hours? We're not talking gross sales. We're talking net. After fees and shipping and cost of goods, after supplies and prep time and show time, after cleanup and after the inventory burned, that number that matters is not how much did I sell. The number is what did I actually keep and what did it cost me to get it. Number 8 would be family and life fit. Does live selling create avoidable strain on the rest of your life? This one matters more than sellers sometimes want to admit. A card business doesn't exist in a vacuum. If the only way to add live selling is to create constant household stress, missed commitments, late nights, or resentment, then the cost is not just business cost, it's life cost. And number 9, strategic fit. Does live selling strengthen the business or distract from it? This is the final question. Does it support the bigger plan? Or does it pull you away from that bigger plan? Because a channel can produce sales and still be a distraction. That's the hardest part. You can make money doing something that still weakens the business if it takes time, energy, and focus away from higher value work. If a seller wants to test live selling, I think they should test it seriously. Not emotionally, but seriously. And that means tracking more than just gross sales. Here's some of the things that I would try to track: gross sales, net after fees, shipping cost, cost of goods, prep time, live time, post-show time, number of items sold, average sale price, a calculated profit per hour, repeat buyers, inventory quality burned, stress level, and whether the result is repeatable. That last part matters. Do not judge the model by the best show. This is like judging penny slots by the 400-time win. You need averages and repeatability. You need to know what happens on the normal night, not just the hot night. One card selling above market is a highlight, but the business model needs averages. This doesn't mean you need a perfect spreadsheet before trying anything. You can overcomplicate yourself into never starting. But simple is not the same as unmeasured. Simple is good. Unmeasured is not. Try the channel if it fits, but measure the channel honestly. So this is where I land on this. Live selling can be a channel, and it can be a useful channel. It can certainly be a fun channel, and it can definitely be a profitable channel. It can be a great way to move certain inventory, build relationships, and create energy around your business. But it shouldn't become the centerpiece of your business just because the room feels good. It shouldn't decide your sourcing, your schedule, and it shouldn't make you ignore your systems. It shouldn't make you abandon better uses of your time, and it shouldn't make you pull inventory from other platforms without a plan. It shouldn't make you confuse action with profit. The mature operator can use live selling without worshiping it. And that's the line for me. I'm not avoiding live selling because I think it's bad. I'm waiting because I want it to serve the business instead of hijacking it. And that may be the bigger lesson here. A good opportunity can still be wrong for your current season. Not now doesn't mean not ever. It means I'm not going to let fear of missing out, adrenaline, or someone else's success story make the decision for me. So if you're looking at live selling right now, I wouldn't tell you to avoid it. I'd tell you to slow down and define the fit. What problem does it solve? What inventory does it move? What time does it require? And what space does it need? What systems does it stress? And what work does it replace? What work does it steal from? And what does it net? Can you repeat it without letting it take over the business? Because live selling isn't the problem. The unmeasured pull is the problem. The loudest hour is not always the most valuable hour. And fear of missing out is usually not a successful business strategy. Use live selling if it fits. Test it if you can measure it. Respect the rush, respect the hidden labor, and respect your own current limits. And remember that not now can still be a strategy. I hope to see you all next week, and I hope you too keep building your own so-called card life.